What up, what up? I'm Aaron Yara, and you're listening to the Effective Nerdcast. This week's episode of the Effective Nerdcast. Hope everybody's doing well, being creative, being productive, just getting shit done, you know? Today I want to talk about some ways that we can tackle creative anxiety. Now, making art isn't always easy. It's not even just about producing the work. You also have to learn whatever craft you're doing. You have to gain experience. You have to gain confidence in putting out work. And that's all on top of producing the work itself. You spend your time, your money, your emotional vitality, just everything into making your art or making your content. Now, wherever there are obstacles or anything, that kind of is difficult when it comes to making art or content, or even just in life, whenever there's an obstacle or something difficult, there's a potential for bad feelings or anxiety, and that can come in the form of fear of failure, embarrassment, stage fright. Also, making personal work, such as artwork, can bring about intense feelings of vulnerability because you're sharing yourself or you're taking a piece of yourself and putting it out there, or even just putting it on the page, even if you're not sharing it with anybody. And these feelings can be really paralyzing for people. I felt it a lot in my life. There were times when I was in bands growing up where I would get stage fright and just kind of black out when I would get on stage. I would still play the instrument, but I would forget all the lyrics. And I just feared failure, and I didn't really have confidence yet. But as I did it more and got more practice, then I got better at it eventually. But creative anxiety has been a really big part of my life as an artist and my life as a creator. Now, creative anxiety can come in a lot of different forms, just like normal anxiety. There's the classic stage fright, which I just mentioned. There's the fear of feeling vulnerable, which can keep us from making our best work. It can also keep us from just starting in general. There's also imposter syndrome, which I plan on doing a full episode on in the future. But that's the idea that you feel like you're a fraud because you're not like a full expert or fully experienced or fully confident in whatever you're doing. Basically, for each step of the creative process, there's a different form of anxiety that you can get. Because you can have the fear to get started, the fear of making it, the fear of putting it out, the fear of performing it. There's the potential for anxiety across the entire creative process. So today I wanted to give a few tips for overcoming creative anxiety and how to relieve creative anxiety. A lot of times anxiety tells you, it can be a good thing. Anxiety, you can get good anxiety when you're about to go on stage and you're really excited. I believe they call that eustress versus distress. I think we learned that in psychology class, right? But there's also good anxiety in the form of it's still scary, but we often have anxiety around parts of our life where we can improve. So sometimes listening to your anxiety is a good thing because it'll tell you what you need to work on and what you need to focus on. Anxiety doesn't always just come out of nowhere. That said, I do have some tips and strategies for overcoming creative anxiety in all of its forms, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So number one is to keep what you want in mind. We all have goals that we want to meet. We all have our schedules, our deadlines, our to-do lists. Sometimes the best way to get through anxiety is to just keep working, but work with a focus where you know that you're working towards your goals and working towards whatever task you need to get done. This is something that helps me a lot, but I'm also kind of a workaholic. I just whenever I feel really anxious or stressed out, what I like to do is just figure out what I need to get done and then just do it. Because I know that if I get a lot of work done, whether it's for my website or for the podcast or even just in real life, like going out and doing yard work or going grocery shopping or cleaning the house, just making progress towards my goals always makes me feel better. Now, I know that's not not for everyone. And obviously not all the tips on this list are going to apply to everyone, but this one is the one that really speaks to me. Number 2, compared to number 1, is think about what you need instead of what you want. Part of the reason why we make art, or the reason why we make content, is because we're seeking fulfillment. If we didn't care about the art that we do or the content that we make, we wouldn't be anxious because we wouldn't care about it. So the fact that we care about it kind of shows that we're seeking these goals and we're seeking fulfillment in our life through whatever our craft is. Keep in mind what your creativity does for you on a personal level, because creativity isn't just about, finding a way to make art or finding a way to make content. It's a way for you to use your brain on a very personal level to put yourself out there through your work. Thinking about, instead of just what you have to do, as in like task oriented, what you need to do, kind of just think about like the entire kind of vibe of the creative journey that you're on and why you're seeking fulfillment and why you need that as a part of your life. That'll kind of help overcome the anxiety, because a lot of time anxiety is about a specific event, like going on stage to perform or releasing a piece of work. So if you think about what your craft means to you on a personal level, it can help you get over that bump. Because, yeah, it may be scary right now, but we're on this journey to become the best creator, the best artist that we can be on a personal, fulfilling level. So keeping that in mind can kind of get you over those short bumps of anxiety. Number 3 is to talk to a friend about how you're feeling. Sometimes all you need is a little support and a little bit of encouragement. Other people can give you advice. The whole reason why humanity is so great is because our brains all work differently. People who know you view you differently than you view yourself. And it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just the side effect of all of us being different from each other and from our brains having so many different variables from each other. So sometimes if you talk to another creator that you know, another artist that you know, or even just friends and family, they'll be able to sometimes give you insight into yourself that you are completely blind to. Just because your brain works a certain way, their brain works a certain way. We all have different biases and prejudices in our thinking. While you may be feeling one way, those around you may be feeling completely differently. So, you can kind of feel like, for example, you can kind of feel like you're a failure and you're stressed out and overwhelmed, where, your best friend may see you as a hero because they're actually petrified about even getting started and you're out here doing it. That's just one example, but there are infinite different ways of how people view you versus you view yourself, but that's just one example. Number 4 is to warm up your creativity. This is good if you are anxious about actually making something, whether it's a comic book or writing a song. Is sometimes you just get nervous about the act of creation. So sometimes just doing a warm-up, the same way you would with like sports or any physical activity, you gotta stretch, you gotta get warmed up, you can't just jump right in all the time. For warming up my creativity, I like to play like thinking games, whether that be like a word game on my phone or any type of creative like video games maybe that I could play just to like get the gears turning in my head a little bit. I like to brainstorm or play brainstorming games. Like, for example, just pick a random letter of the alphabet and then, come up with a paragraph where every noun starts with that letter. That can help you get warmed up for writing. For drawing, I like to use a name generator and just draw whatever name it generates, whatever comes up in my head. My favorite one is a website called Video Game Name. The URL is videogamena.me, and it generates random video game names, like not games that actually exist, but video games like completely random. Super Grandma Cart, I like to use that to get warmed up when I'm drawing, because it comes out with just some outlandish ideas, and just being able to sketch out that outlandish idea is like very fun and silly, but it's also very creative, so it kind of, gets your mind going. That's just what I like to do. But you can find different ways to warm yourself up before you start creating or before you go to perform. Number 5 is to think about your past successes. There are some of us, or a lot of us, who feel anxious every time we have to perform or every time we have to release a piece of work or make a piece of work. Unless it's your first time, then you've successfully overcome this anxiety before. So just try to keep that in mind. I know it's kind of hard to do in the moment when you're really anxious, but if you've overcome this anxiety before, you can do it again. In my experience, anxiety is like kind of a temporary thing. Now, obviously, this is different for people who actually have like anxiety disorders, and I don't mean this episode to be any sort of like mental health guidance. This is really just for anxiety that does occur naturally in our lives. But if we've overcome this anxiety before, we can obviously do it again. And sometimes we forget about that. Like, oh, I'm nervous about getting on stage, but this is the 15th show that I've played. So you've already done it 15 times. That doesn't mean that the current anxiety you're feeling is any less, or it's like fraudulent in any way. It still is real and it's there. But just keeping in mind that you've had this success in the past and that you've overcome this before can help. Number 6, related to number 5, is think about your future success. Consistency and perseverance is not only very rewarding because you're constantly giving your audience good value, on a consistent basis. It also helps you progress in your craft, and most importantly, it helps you progress in your confidence. Kind of what we were talking about in the last one. The more times you overcome the same anxiety bump, the easier it gets the next time. I know with me performing on stage, like the first handful of times are really scary for me, and then it kind of gets easier and gets easier and gets easier, and then, once I've performed a bunch of times, I can get on stage and just do it. And I feel like it kind of resets for every band I was in, because I played gigs with, I think, 5 different bands at this point. The first gig's always the scariest. It's almost like, for me personally, it's like all of my on-stage confidence resets with the new band that I'm in. But think about how you can be consistent in the future, and think about the progression you're going to make once you get over this, and how you're going to be more confident on the other side of this. Number 7 is brainstorm new ideas. I know I mentioned brainstorming in the warm up your creativity tip. However, for this, I specifically mean brainstorming for strategies to help you reach your goals. Because sometimes just having a plan is all, like, getting organized, getting your thoughts organized, and having a plan and making yourself a schedule is all it takes to get rid of anxiety. And that's something that helps me a lot as well. Actually, I actually did this yesterday. I was feeling really stressed out. Because I had to record this podcast, which it's Sunday right now, and I release it Sunday night. I try to record the podcast on Saturday and then edit it on Sunday. But yesterday I just was feeling a little crazy. So I had to like mow the lawn, go grocery shopping. I had, all this stuff to do around the house. I have like shelves that I'm painting in the garage, and I was just feeling really flustered and really anxious. And what helped me was I had to do some laundry, and my computer is next to my laundry room. So I was just like, I'm going to do some laundry, and I'm only going to give myself the time while the laundry is going. I'm going to sit down and make a schedule for myself for the next few weeks that I can stick to. I felt a lot better after doing it. I just sat down, I took like an hour, made a schedule for myself, and a lot of my anxiety went away because now I have a plan. No matter how I'm feeling, I know what I have to do next, and that's always a very relieving feeling for me. So take some time to brainstorm and make some strategies going forward. See how it makes you feel to be a little bit more organized and to have a bit of a better schedule. Number 8 is to go on a walk or exercise. Physical activity is a great stress relief. It's a good way to take a break from being creative and to clear your head. I don't know, just physical health in general has a lot of mental health benefits. Whether it's, like balancing your body correctly, like your body being in better homeostasis, then your brain's getting better, like blood flow, oxygen, hormones, all that. It can also help with confidence because you don't have to struggle as much if you're stronger and if your body moves better. There's a whole slew of benefits from being physically active. It's also a good way to take a break and clear your head. Sometimes if I'm like on a walk, or I like to do punching bag. If I'm hitting a punching bag, sometimes I get my best thoughts while doing that, or my best ideas. So I think a lot of it is like your body is just going, kind of like the idle hands thing. Like your body's just going super hard, but then you kind of get this mental clarity while it's happening. Not saying you have to go to the gym every day if that's not your thing. But sometimes just going for like a quick walk around the block when you're feeling stressed out or anxious is enough to calm you down enough to, when you get back home, you can jump back into what you were doing. Number 9 is to just do something silly. A lot of times creative anxiety comes from the ego. We think like, this is my work, this is my thing, and I'm not saying ego in like a cocky or arrogant way, but it just it comes from yourself. Sometimes you have a lot of creative anxiety because you feel like you aren't good enough, or you have too much responsibility, or it's just weighing too heavy on you personally. Sometimes just laughing at yourself is really good, or just like doing something silly. I have a baby. I like to do silly things with him all the time, or come up with little songs, or dance around, or make funny faces. It helps a lot. But even before the baby was born, sometimes I would dance around the house, or make up silly songs, or make funny faces in the mirror. Just anything to kind of, calm my ego down a little bit, where I can look at myself being silly and not have to feel like I have to be serious or hardworking all the time. So, that's really what it's all about. It's just, it's kind of like just in life in general, is finding that balance between working hard and having fun. And sometimes you just gotta have a little bit of fun before you can go and get back to work. It doesn't have to be work all the time, or you don't have to use work as a way to earn fun. Sometimes you can just go and have fun and be silly and just do whatever you want for a few minutes and then get back and do your work. Number 10, similar to number 9, is to look up funny pictures and look up inspirational quotes. Because sometimes, like being silly, all you need to do is just laugh a little bit or read quotes from other creators. There's an endless amount of websites online where you can either look at funny things or inspiring things. And sometimes that's all you need. It's just a little pick-me-up, a little laugh, and then you can get back going into your work. Number 10 is remember that it's okay to feel anxious. It happens to us. It's a biological response. It's something that's completely natural and that we all feel at some times. And honestly, most of the best things in life come with a battle with anxiety and, built into them. Because a lot of times anxiety just means that you care. You care about the outcome of what you're anxious about. And that's a good thing, caring about things that are important to you, especially, your loved ones, your craft, just anything that makes you feel more fulfilled as a person often comes with difficulty and anxiety. And that's completely fine. And it's, it's natural to feel this way. Sometimes just let it happen and you'll be fine. Finally, number 12 is to go to what inspires you. Because sometimes a lot of stress and anxiety comes from a lack of inspiration, where we know that we have to work on a specific project, but we don't have the motivation or the inspiration to actually do it very well. Going towards what inspires you can reignite that spark. And it can be something really simple, such as listening to your favorite song, or spending time with friends and family, or you can, watch like YouTube videos of people who you consider to be your heroes or your role models when it comes to creativity. Just anything to get a little inspiration going and just get over that hump. Alright, so those are my tips. I just wanted to say that if you wanted to read more about anxiety, I know that WebMD, Mayo Clinic, Medical News Today, a lot of the bigger medical websites have really good articles about anxiety. Obviously, if you feel like your anxiety is outside of the scope of what we talked about today, like I said, I'm not a doctor. Please contact a medical professional if you feel like if you feel like your anxiety is too much for you to handle, or if you're having any bad maybe self-harmful thoughts with your anxiety. What we talked about today was just kind of general anxiety that artists can go through, but if you feel like you actually have a problem, please seek a medical professional. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I know it's kind of a quick episode, but I just wanted to get that out there. I know I've had a lot of anxiety recently when it comes to making the website and making this podcast, but I'm getting over it. I wanted to share my best tips with you about that. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Stay safe, everyone. Have fun. Find ways to get over your anxiety. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Effective Nerdcast. For more information on how to step up your work, please visit effectivenerd.com. You can find us on social media at effectivenerd. You can also email us at effectivenerd@gmail.com. Effective Nerdcast is hosted by Aaron Yara. The theme song was created by MC Graffiti.